An elderly man collapsed in my driveway, gasping, "They're stealing my organs." Then his daughter, a nurse, showed me documents for his scheduled kidney donation surgery. I was replacing the mailbox post when the old man stumbled into my driveway. His shirt was unbuttoned and hanging open. Surgical tape covered his lower abdomen in crisscrossing patterns. Blood had seeped through in dark spots that looked fresh. He was maybe 70, gray hair wild, eyes unfocused but desperate. His legs gave out halfway up my driveway and he went down hard on the concrete. I dropped my tools and ran. He was gasping, one hand pressed against his side, the other reaching toward me with fingers that trembled violently. His lips were moving, but no sound came out at first. I knelt beside him and could smell antiseptic mixed with something metallic and wrong. Then he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength and pulled me close enough that I could feel his breath hot against my ear. "They're stealing my organs," he whispered. "Please, call the police. Don't let them take me back." His eyes rolled, and he slumped against me. I felt for a pulse and found one, rapid and thready. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911 with shaking hands. The operator answered, and I gave her the address while checking the old man for injuries. The surgical tape covered what looked like a recent incision, maybe 3 inches long, held together with staples that gleamed silver under the afternoon sun. His breathing was shallow but steady. The operator kept asking questions. Was he conscious? Was he bleeding actively? Did I know him? I told her no. He'd just appeared in my driveway, that he'd said something about organ theft before passing out. She told me ambulance was 4 minutes away. I stayed on the line and kept my hand on his shoulder. His skin felt clammy and too cold. Then a car pulled up to the curb, a silver SUV with tinted windows. A woman got out and came running up the driveway. She was maybe 40, wearing scrubs with a hospital ID badge clipped to the front. Her face showed concern, but also something else, something tight around her eyes and mouth. "Dad!" she called out. She reached us and immediately started checking him over with practiced efficiency. "Thank God someone found him. I'm his daughter. I'm a nurse. He wandered off from the hospital this morning. We've been searching everywhere." She looked at me, and I saw tears in her eyes. "He's confused. The medication makes him disoriented. Did he say anything to you?" I hesitated. Something about her tone felt rehearsed. "He said people were stealing his organs." Her expression shifted to something like pained sympathy. "Oh, Dad," she said softly, touching his face. Then she looked at me again. "He's scheduled for kidney donation surgery tomorrow. Voluntary, pre-approved, everything legally documented. But he's terrified of the procedure. Keeps having episodes where he thinks we're trying to harvest his organs against his will. It's heartbreaking." She pulled a folder from her bag and showed me paperwork. Hospital letterhead, consent forms with signatures, surgical scheduling documents. Everything looked official and legitimate. The ambulance arrived with lights but no siren. 2 paramedics got out, and the woman, who introduced herself as Diana Holbrook, briefed them quickly and professionally. Scheduled kidney donor, pre-surgical anxiety, medication-induced confusion, history of paranoid episodes. The paramedics nodded and started their assessment. One of them spoke into his radio about transport back to Memorial Hospital. Diana stood beside me while they worked, and I watched her face. She looked exhausted and sad, but also relieved. "This is the 3rd time he's run," she said quietly. "Last week he made it all the way to the bus station before security found him. He's convinced we're part of some conspiracy. But he signed the consent form 6 months ago when he was lucid. He wants to donate to his grandson. My son Alex has kidney failure. He's only 12. Without this transplant, he's looking at dialysis for the rest of his life." She wiped her eyes. "I know how this looks. I know what Dad probably told you, but I promise you, this is legitimate. I can show you all the documentation." The paramedics loaded the old man onto the gurney. He stirred, and his eyes opened. Found mine. "Don't believe her," he rasped. "She's lying. I never agreed to this. They're going to kill me." Diana moved to his side and took his hand. "Dad, it's okay. You're safe. We're going back to the hospital. Alex needs you to be strong." The old man tried to pull away, but he was too weak. "I don't have a grandson," he said, voice breaking. "I don't have a son. I never had children. This woman is not my daughter." Diana's face crumpled. "The dementia is getting worse," she told the paramedics. "He doesn't recognize me half the time anymore. Says I'm a stranger trying to hurt him." One of the paramedics, a young guy with kind eyes, squeezed her shoulder. "We'll take good care of him. You should follow us to the hospital. Dr. Reeves will want to evaluate him before surgery." They wheeled the gurney toward the ambulance. The old man kept looking at me, kept trying to say something, but Diana stayed close and kept speaking softly to him about Alex and about how brave he was being. I stood in my driveway after they left and looked at the blood on the concrete. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't articulate what. The paperwork had looked legitimate. Diana had hospital ID. The paramedics had known her by name, but the old man's eyes had been so certain, so desperate. I went inside and washed the blood off my hands and tried to forget about it. This wasn't my business. Medical families dealt with complicated situations. Dementia made people paranoid. Kidney donation was a noble thing, especially for a dying child. I tried to go back to work on the mailbox, but couldn't focus. Finally, I went inside and opened my laptop, searched for Memorial Hospital Kidney Transplant Program, Found a professional website with information about living donors and recipient criteria. Searched for Diana Holbrook. Found a LinkedIn profile for a Diana Holbrook who worked as a surgical nurse at Memorial. Her photo matched the woman I'd seen. Everything checked out. But I kept thinking about what the old man had said. I don't have a grandson. I never had children. I called Memorial Hospital and asked for patient information. The receptionist was polite but firm about privacy policies. I couldn't get any details about current patients without being family. I asked if there was a Dr. Reeves on staff. She transferred me, and I got voicemail. I hung up without leaving a message because I didn't know what to say. I was being paranoid. This was exactly the kind of situation that Diana had described. Confused, elderly patient, necessary surgery, family member trying to help. I should let it go. Instead, I drove to Memorial Hospital. It was a 40-minute drive across town to the medical district. The hospital was huge, all glass and steel, with multiple buildings connected by walkways. I parked and went inside to the main lobby. The information desk was staffed by a volunteer, an elderly woman with glasses on a chain. "I'm looking for a patient," I said. He was brought in by ambulance about an hour ago. Older man, gray hair, his daughter Diana was with him. The volunteer typed on her computer. "I can't give out patient information, but if you're family, you can check with admissions on the 3rd floor." I took the elevator up. The admissions area was busy with people filling out forms and talking to staff behind a long counter. I waited in line, and when I reached the front, I tried again. "I'm trying to find information about a patient brought in this afternoon." Older man, possibly named Holbrook? The woman behind the counter looked at me with professional patience. "Are you family?" "No, but I'm the one who found him. I just want to make sure he's okay." "I'm sorry, but without patient consent or family authorization, I can't share any information." I thanked her and walked away, feeling foolish. What was I even doing here? I didn't know the old man's name, didn't have any claim to information about his care. But as I walked past the surgical wing, I saw Diana through a window in a consultation room. She was talking to a doctor, a tall man with silver hair and an expensive suit under his white coat. They were looking at paperwork spread across a table. Diana was nodding and pointing at something on the documents. The doctor's expression was serious and focused. I walked past quickly before either of them could see me, found a bathroom and splashed water on my face, stared at my reflection and tried to figure out what I was doing. Playing detective based on what? The confused rambling of a sick old man? But his eyes hadn't looked confused. They'd looked terrified and completely lucid in that moment when he'd grabbed my wrist. I went back downstairs to the main lobby and sat in the waiting area. Pulled out my phone and searched for information about organ trafficking. Found articles about black market kidneys in other countries, about people who'd been drugged and woken up missing organs, about desperate patients who paid huge sums for illegal transplants. But this was America. This was a legitimate hospital with documentation and consent forms. 30 minutes later, I saw Diana walk through the lobby. She looked tired but composed. She didn't see me. I waited until she was outside, then followed at a distance. She got into her silver SUV, and I ran to my truck, followed her out of the parking lot and onto the main road. She drove through downtown and into an older residential neighborhood. The houses here were small but well-maintained with mature trees and chain-link fences. She pulled into a driveway of a yellow bungalow, and I drove past, parked 2 blocks away, and walked back. The house had toys in the front yard, a basketball hoop over the garage, bikes leaning against the porch, normal family home. I felt like an idiot and a stalker. What was I hoping to find? Evidence that a nurse was lying about her own father and son? I was about to leave when I saw a boy come out onto the porch. He looked about 12, wearing a t-shirt and jeans. He bounced a basketball a few times, then went back inside. The boy had looked healthy, active, not like someone dying of kidney failure. I walked back to my truck and sat there trying to decide what to do. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered and heard a weak, raspy voice. "Is this the man from the driveway?" It was him, the old man. "Yes. Are you okay? Where are you?" "Room 412, Memorial Hospital. They're doing surgery tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. Please, you have to help me. No one believes me. They all think I'm confused, but I'm not. My mind is clear. I know exactly what's happening." "The woman who came to my house, is she really your daughter?" "I don't have a daughter. I don't have any children. I never married. Diana Holbrook is a nurse here, but she's not related to me. She's involved in something terrible, and I'm just one of many." His voice was getting weaker. "I don't have much time before they come back. They keep sedating me. Please, you need to look into Lionel Cross. That's my name. Look me up. You'll see I'm telling the truth about not having family." "If she's not your daughter, how did she get consent forms with your signature?" "I never signed them. I swear to you. 2 months ago, I came in for a routine checkup. They said I had high blood pressure, needed to do some tests. I woke up in a room with bandages, and Diana telling me I'd volunteered for a pre-surgical evaluation. But I never volunteered for anything. I tried to leave, and they said I was confused, kept me here for observation. Every time I try to tell someone the truth, they increase my medication. Say I'm having delusions." His breathing was labored. "Please." Look into Lionel Cross. Look into how many kidney donors have died at this hospital in the past year. Something is very wrong here. The line went dead. I tried calling back, but it went straight to voicemail. I sat in my truck with my heart pounding and searched for Lionel Cross. Found an obituary from 3 years ago for a Lionel Cross who'd been 72 and survived by 3 children and 8 grandchildren. Found a LinkedIn profile for a Lionel Cross who was an engineer in Seattle. Found property records for a Lionel Cross who owned a house in the north part of town. I clicked on the property records. The address was 1847 Elmwood Drive. The owner was listed as Lionel Michael Cross, age 71, unmarried, no dependents listed on tax records. I searched for death records and found nothing recent. Searched for family connections and found none. Lionel Cross appeared to be exactly what he'd claimed, an unmarried man with no children. So, who the hell was Diana Holbrook, and why was she pretending to be his daughter? And if she wasn't his daughter, how had she gotten legal authority to authorize his surgery? I drove back to the hospital and parked in the visitor lot. It was after 7 p.m. now, and the main lobby was quieter. I took the elevator to the 4th floor and found room 412. The door was closed. I knocked softly and heard nothing. Tried the handle and it opened. The room was private, dim, with medical equipment beeping softly. Lionel was in the bed, eyes closed, IV in his arm. I approached quietly. Mr. Cross? His eyes opened slowly, struggled to focus. When he recognized me, relief flooded his face. You came, he whispered. You believed me. I looked you up. You're right. No children listed on any records, no marriage license. So how did Diana Holbrook get legal authority to schedule your surgery? I don't know, but she has power of attorney somehow. She showed the doctor's paperwork. They all believe her. Think I'm senile. He tried to sit up, but was too weak. You have to stop the surgery. Once they have me in that operating room, I'll never wake up. I know too much. I've seen things in this hospital, things that don't add up. Patients who come in for routine procedures and end up as organ donors. People without families, homeless, elderly, anyone vulnerable. The door opened and a nurse came in. Not Diana. This woman was younger, with red hair and suspicious eyes. Visiting hours ended at 8, she said. You need to leave. I'm just checking on my uncle, I said. The lie came easily. I heard he had an episode today. Your uncle? She looked at her chart. You're not listed as family or emergency contact. We're estranged. I only found out he was here when a friend mentioned seeing him brought in. I wanted to make sure he's okay. She studied me for a long moment. He's scheduled for surgery in the morning. Pre-op protocol means no visitors. After 9 p.m., you should come back tomorrow. Can I speak with Diana Holbrook? I understand she's handling his care. Something flickered across the nurse's face. Diana left for the day. You can speak with the attending physician if you have questions. Dr. Grant Reeves. I can page him if it's urgent. No, that's fine. I'll come back tomorrow. I looked at Lionel. His eyes were pleading. Uncle Lionel, I'll be back first thing in the morning, before your surgery. We'll get everything sorted out. The nurse watched me leave, and I felt her eyes on my back all the way to the elevator. In my truck, I called the police non-emergency line. The dispatcher listened to my story with professional patience. So you're concerned that an elderly man is being coerced into organ donation? Yes. He says the woman claiming to be his daughter isn't related to him. He has no family on record. Something's wrong. Has he been declared incompetent? Does he have dementia or other cognitive issues? They claim he does, but when I spoke to him, he was completely lucid. He knew his own name, knew he had no family, knew exactly what was happening. Sir, these are complex medical situations. If the hospital has proper documentation and consent forms, and if doctors have evaluated his mental state, then this is a legal medical procedure. Unless you have evidence of a crime, there's not much we can do. What about checking the documentation? Verifying that the consent forms are legitimate? That would require a warrant, and a judge isn't going to issue one based on a patient having pre-surgical anxiety. I'm sorry, but unless you have concrete evidence of fraud or coercion, this falls under medical ethics, not criminal law. I hung up, feeling helpless and furious. Drove to Lionel's house on Elmwood Drive. It was a modest ranch-style home, with an overgrown lawn and newspapers piled on the porch. The mailbox was overflowing. I walked around the property looking for anything that might help, peered through windows and saw furniture covered in dust, dishes in the sink, a life interrupted. No signs of family photos on the walls, no kids' drawings on the refrigerator. Just a lonely old man's empty home. I was about to leave when I noticed the neighbor watching me from her porch next door. She was elderly, wrapped in a cardigan despite the warm evening. Can I help you? She called out. I walked over. I'm looking for information about Lionel Cross. Do you know him? Lionel? Of course. We've been neighbors for 30 years. Is he all right? I haven't seen him in weeks. He's in the hospital. Memorial. Do you know if he has any family? A daughter, maybe? The woman shook her head firmly. Lionel never married. Never had children. He was always alone, poor dear. I used to bring him dinner sometimes. He'd talk about how he wished he'd had a family, but it just never happened for him. Why do you ask? Someone at the hospital is claiming to be his daughter, says her son needs a kidney transplant and Lionel agreed to donate. The neighbor's face went pale. That's impossible. Lionel would have told me. And he doesn't have any family. Who is this woman? Her name is Diana Holbrook. She's a nurse at Memorial. The neighbor was quiet for a moment, then gestured for me to follow her inside. Her living room was cluttered but clean, filled with photographs and knickknacks. She went to a desk and pulled out a folder. About 6 weeks ago, Lionel asked me to hold on to some things for him. Said he was worried about something at the hospital. He'd been going there for routine checkups, blood pressure medication, that sort of thing. But then he started acting paranoid. Said someone at the hospital was asking too many questions about his family, his assets, whether he had a will. He thought it was strange. She handed me the folder. Inside were bank statements, property deeds, insurance documents, and a handwritten note. The note was dated 2 months ago. If anything happens to me, I did not consent to organ donation. I have no family. Any documents claiming otherwise are forgery. Diana Holbrook is not my daughter. Dr. Grant Reeves is involved. Please investigate. Did you report this to anyone? I asked. The neighbor shook her head. I thought he was being paranoid. He's been so lonely, and I thought maybe the isolation was getting to him, making him suspicious of people who were trying to help. But now, hearing what you've said, maybe he was right to be worried. Can I take this? I need to show it to someone. Take it. If Lionel's in danger, do whatever you need to do. I drove back to the hospital with the folder on my passenger seat. It was after 10 p.m. now, and the main entrance was locked. Only the emergency department was open. I went in through the ER and found a security guard. I need to speak with someone in administration. It's urgent. About a patient scheduled for surgery tomorrow morning. The guard looked bored. Administration office is closed until 8 a.m. You can come back then. This can't wait. A patient is being coerced into surgery. I have evidence. Evidence of what? Medical fraud, forged consent forms, a nurse impersonating a family member. That got his attention. You need to talk to the charge nurse. Wait here. He made a call, and a few minutes later, a woman in scrubs appeared. She introduced herself as Melissa Torres, night shift supervisor. I showed her Lionel's note and explained everything. She listened with a deepening frown. This is a serious accusation. Diana Holbrook is a respected nurse here. She's worked at Memorial for 8 years, and Dr. Reeves is head of the transplant program. You're saying they're involved in some kind of organ trafficking scheme? I'm saying Lionel Cross has no family, never consented to organ donation, and wrote this note 2 months ago, warning that someone might forge documents. Now, he's scheduled for surgery in less than 8 hours, and a woman claiming to be his daughter has somehow obtained legal authority over his medical decisions. Don't you find that suspicious? Melissa's expression was carefully neutral. What I find is that you're not family, not his lawyer, and not law enforcement. You're making serious allegations against hospital staff based on a note and the claims of a patient who may or may not be mentally competent. I can't just cancel a scheduled surgery because a stranger shows up with concerns. Then call the police. Have them investigate before the surgery. If you want to involve police, you're free to do that. But I'm not canceling a transplant procedure without proper authority. That's not my decision to make. I left the hospital and sat in my truck trying to figure out what to do. Called the police again and this time asked for a detective. Got transferred to voicemail. Left a message explaining everything and asking for someone to call me back urgently. Then I waited. Midnight came and went. No call back. I dozed in my truck in the hospital parking lot, woke up at 4 a.m. with a stiff neck and growing dread. Lionel's surgery was in 2 hours. I went back to the ER entrance. Different security guard this time. I asked again to speak with administration and was told the same thing. Wait until 8 a.m. By 8 a.m. the surgery will be over. I need to speak with someone now. This is about patient safety. The guard radioed someone, and eventually another administrator appeared. This one was a man in his 50s, irritated at being called in early. His name tag read, David Klein, Assistant Director. I explained everything again, showed him Lionel's note, explained about the lack of family. Klein read the note and sighed. Mr. Cross, I understand you're concerned, but we have protocols. Diana Holbrook provided all necessary documentation, including power of attorney, consent forms, and medical necessity statements. Everything was reviewed by our legal department and approved. Can I see the documents? The originals? That's confidential medical information. I can't show them to you. What if they're forged? What if Lionel never signed them? Our legal team verified the signatures. They compared them to documents on file. Everything checked out. What documents on file? He's been coming here for routine checkups. How would you have other signatures to compare? Klein hesitated. I'm not privy to the specifics, but I assure you our legal department doesn't approve major procedures without due diligence. If you have evidence of forgery, you need to take that to the police. I tried. They said they need a warrant to investigate and they won't get one without more evidence. But by the time I get more evidence, Lionel will be dead. That's not how it works. The surgery is a kidney donation. It's not fatal. He'll recover and live a normal life. What if something goes wrong? What if there are complications? An old man undergoing major surgery he never agreed to? Klein's expression hardened. I've listened to your concerns. I've reviewed the note. But without concrete evidence of wrongdoing, I can't halt a scheduled surgery. If you continue to interfere, I'll have security remove you from the premises. I went back to my truck and called every news station I could think of. Left messages about a potential organ trafficking scheme at Memorial Hospital. Called lawyers listed online, got voicemails because it was 5 a.m. Called victim advocacy groups and legal aid organizations, left desperate messages everywhere. Then I called the FBI, got an automated system that directed me to leave a message. I explained everything in 3 minutes and gave them all my contact information. 5:30 a.m. The sun was starting to rise. I went back inside and tried to get to the 4th floor. Security stopped me at the elevator. "Sir, you need to leave or we'll call the police." "Call them, please. Tell them there's a medical kidnapping in progress. Tell them a man is being forced into surgery against his will." The security guard spoke into his radio. 2 more guards appeared. They escorted me firmly but not roughly out of the building. "Don't come back without proper authorization," one of them said. "We've been told you're harassing staff." I stood in the parking lot feeling helpless, took out my phone and started recording a video. "My name is Derek Wilson. It's 6 a.m. on September 15th. I'm outside Memorial Hospital where a man named Lionel Cross is about to undergo forced organ harvesting. He has no family, but a nurse named Diana Holbrook is claiming to be his daughter. He never consented to surgery. I have a written note from him stating this. The hospital refuses to investigate. The police won't help without a warrant. If something happens to Lionel Cross, Diana Holbrook and Dr. Grant Reeves are responsible." I posted the video to every social media platform I had. Then I waited. The sun rose higher. People started arriving for day shifts. Hospital traffic increased. My phone rang at 6:45. Unknown number. "Mr. Wilson? This is Agent Patricia Campbell with the FBI. I received your message about organ trafficking. I'm 20 minutes from Memorial Hospital. Don't leave. I need to speak with you." Relief flooded through me. Lionel Cross is scheduled for surgery at 6 a.m. I don't know if they've already started. "I'm calling the hospital now to halt any procedures pending investigation. Stay where you are." She hung up. I waited in my truck, shaking with exhaustion and adrenaline. Watched the entrance. At 7 a.m., I saw Diana Holbrook arrive. She parked and walked toward the building, saw me watching, and her expression changed. She walked over to my truck. "You need to stop," she said through the window. "You're interfering with a life-saving procedure. My son is dying." "You don't have a son. I saw the boy at your house. He looked perfectly healthy." Her face went pale. "You followed me home? You're stalking me now?" "I'm trying to save a man's life. Lionel Cross has no family. He never consented to surgery. You forged documents." "You don't know what you're talking about. Everything is legal and documented. You're harassing me based on the confused ramblings of a mentally ill patient." "Then explain how you have power of attorney over a man you're not related to." "That's none of your business. But since you're so determined to interfere, I'll tell you. Lionel has no family. You're right. He was lonely and isolated. I befriended him, helped him with errands and doctor's appointments. He was grateful. He asked me to be his healthcare proxy because he trusted me. He wanted to do something meaningful with his life. When he learned about my son's condition, he volunteered. This was his choice. Then why does his note say otherwise? Why did he tell his neighbor you're not his daughter? Because the medication makes him paranoid. He doesn't remember conversations we had, doesn't remember signing documents. It's tragic, but it doesn't change the fact that he consented when he was lucid. The courts verified everything." A black sedan pulled into the lot. A woman in a suit got out. She walked directly toward us with the bearing of someone who expected to be obeyed. "Diana Holbrook?" she called out. Diana turned. "Yes?" The woman showed a badge. "Agent Patricia Campbell, FBI. I need you to come with me. We have questions about your relationship with Lionel Cross and several other patients at this hospital." Diana's face went from pale to ashen. "I don't understand. I've done nothing wrong." "Then you won't mind answering some questions. We're also speaking with Dr. Grant Reeves and other staff members. A federal investigation has been opened into potential organ trafficking and medical fraud at Memorial Hospital." Diana looked at me with pure hatred. "This is your fault. You've destroyed everything over nothing. Lionel wanted to help. He wanted to save a child's life." Agent Campbell stepped between us. "Ms. Holbrook, come with me, please. Mr. Wilson, I need a statement from you as well. Let's go inside." We went into the hospital. Campbell showed her badge to security, and suddenly doors opened that had been closed to me all night. We went to an administrative conference room where 2 other agents were waiting. Campbell spoke into a radio. "Has the surgery been halted?" "Yes, ma'am. Patient is being moved back to recovery. Dr. Reeves is being detained." Campbell looked at me. "Tell me everything from the beginning." I told her about Lionel collapsing in my driveway, about Diana's arrival with documents, about Lionel's phone call and his note left with the neighbor. Showed her the folder with bank statements and property deeds. Campbell listened without interrupting, taking notes. When I finished, she leaned back. "We've been investigating Memorial Hospital for 3 months. Anonymous tip came in about irregularities in their transplant program. Unusually high number of elderly, isolated patients becoming organ donors. Patients with no family suddenly having healthcare proxies who authorize donations. Financial irregularities in the transplant coordinator's accounts. But we didn't have enough for a warrant until your call this morning. Your video got shared on social media, started getting traction. People were calling the local news, calling the hospital, demanding answers. That gave us the public interest angle we needed to move fast. Is Lionel safe? He's under federal protection now. We've secured his room and he's being evaluated by independent physicians. If what you're telling me is true, and initial investigation suggests it is, he was minutes away from an unauthorized surgery. Agent Campbell's phone rang. She answered, listened, and her expression grew grim. Bring them all in, she said, and hung up. She looked at me. Dr. Reeves just tried to leave the building with several boxes of files. Security stopped him. Diana Holbrook's home is being searched. We're also looking into the alleged grandson. There's no child registered at that address. The boy you saw may have been a neighbor's kid or someone else's child used as a prop. How many victims? We don't know yet. But based on preliminary records, at least 15 elderly patients became organ donors in the past 18 months. All of them had no family. All of them had Diana Holbrook listed as healthcare proxy. All of them had surgeries performed by Dr. Reeves. And all of them died within 6 months of donation from what were listed as complications. The number hit me like a physical blow. They were murdering them. That's what we're investigating. Organ trafficking is incredibly profitable. A kidney can sell for over $200,000 on the black market. If they were taking organs from vulnerable patients, falsifying consent, and then disposing of the donors before anyone could question what happened, they could have made millions. Over the next several hours, the investigation unfolded rapidly. Diana Holbrook was arrested and charged with fraud, conspiracy, and practicing medicine without proper authority. Her nursing license had been suspended 3 years ago after complaints about forged documents, but she'd continued working under a false credential. Dr. Grant Reeves was arrested and charged with murder, organ trafficking, and fraud. His credentials were legitimate, but his financial records showed large payments from offshore accounts linked to organ trafficking networks. The alleged grandson didn't exist. The boy I'd seen was Diana's nephew, who sometimes stayed at her house. She'd used him as a prop to make her story more sympathetic. The house was rented under a false name. 17 elderly patients were identified as potential victims. Most were already dead, their deaths attributed to surgical complications or natural causes. But Lionel Cross was alive, and his testimony, combined with the note he'd left with his neighbor and the medical records seized from the hospital, provided the evidence needed to build a case. I gave my statement to multiple agents, signed documents, agreed to testify when the case went to trial. Then I was allowed to see Lionel. He was in a different room now, still weak but alive. When he saw me, his eyes filled with tears. "You believed me," he said, voice hoarse. "No one else did, but you believed me." "I almost didn't. I almost walked away." "But you didn't. You kept pushing. You saved my life." He reached for my hand, and I took it. His grip was weak but grateful. I thought I was going to die in that operating room. I thought no one would ever know the truth, that I'd just be another lonely old man who died during a routine surgery. "You're not going to die. You're going to testify and help put them away." "The others," Lionel said, voice breaking. "All those other people. I saw them. Patients who came in healthy and left in body bags. I tried to tell nurses, tried to tell doctors, but everyone thought I was confused, said I was mixing up patients or imagining things. But I wasn't. I saw Diana talking to families, convincing them their loved ones wanted to donate. I saw death certificates signed before people were even dead. I tried to run so many times." "You don't have to run anymore." Agent Campbell came in with an update. The investigation was expanding. Other hospitals were being reviewed for similar patterns. Diana Holbrook had worked at 3 different medical facilities over the past decade, and each one had unusual spikes in organ donations from elderly, isolated patients. Dr. Reeves had connections to illegal transplant coordinators in multiple countries. They'd been matching stolen organs with desperate patients willing to pay enormous sums and bypass legal waiting lists. The scheme had made them millions while killing vulnerable people who had no one to advocate for them. "Without your intervention, Mr. Wilson, Lionel would be dead by now, and we might never have caught them," Campbell said. "Your video went viral. The public pressure forced us to move fast. Sometimes that's what it takes. Someone who refuses to look away even when everyone else says they're wrong." She left us alone. Lionel was quiet for a long moment. "I don't have any family," he said finally. "No children, no wife, no siblings. I thought about that a lot when I knew they were going to kill me. Thought about how easy it would be for me to disappear. Who would miss me? Who would even notice?" "I would have noticed," I said, "and I would have never stopped asking questions." The trial took 8 months. I testified about finding Lionel in my driveway, about Diana's arrival with false documents, about the phone call from the hospital, and the note left with the neighbor. Lionel testified about being targeted, about watching other patients disappear, about his desperate attempts to escape. The neighbor testified about holding on to his warning note. FBI agents testified about the financial records, the forged documents, the connection to international organ trafficking. Diana Holbrook showed no remorse, sat in court looking dignified and wronged, claimed she'd been trying to help lonely elderly people find meaning through donation, that any irregularities were administrative errors, not criminal intent. Dr. Reeves tried to shift blame to Diana, claimed he'd been deceived, that he thought all donations were legitimate and properly authorized. The jury didn't believe either of them. Diana got 40 years for conspiracy to commit murder, medical fraud, and organ trafficking. Dr. Reeves got life without parole for 17 counts of first-degree murder. 3 other hospital administrators were convicted for accepting bribes and falsifying records. Lionel moved into an assisted living facility closer to his old neighborhood. His neighbor visited him regularly. So did I. We became friends in the way people do when they've been through something terrible together. He told me stories about his life, about his regrets, about the family he'd never had. "I used to think my life didn't matter," he said once over coffee in the facility's cafeteria. "Thought because I had no children, no legacy, I wasn't important. That's probably why Diana targeted me. She knew no one would miss me. But you proved her wrong. You proved that my life mattered enough for someone to fight for it. Everyone's life matters, whether they have family or not. Not everyone believes that. Not everyone acts on it." He smiled. "You did. You're the son I never had." The words made my throat tight. I'd never thought of it that way. But maybe he was right. Maybe that's what we'd become to each other. Family by choice, rather than blood. 2 years after the trial, Lionel died peacefully in his sleep. Natural causes this time, at 73, surrounded by friends. He left everything to the neighbor who'd kept his notes safe, and to me. The house, his savings, personal belongings. For believing me when no one else would, his will read. For proving that even alone I mattered. I sold the house and donated the money to organizations that advocate for elder abuse prevention and patient rights. Kept only one thing, the handwritten note he'd left with his neighbor. Framed it and hung it in my home. If anything happens to me, I did not consent to organ donation. I have no family. Any documents claiming otherwise are forgery. Please investigate. A reminder that sometimes the truth sounds impossible. That sometimes the paranoid person is the only one seeing clearly. That sometimes you have to trust your instincts over paperwork and credentials and the reasonable explanations of people in positions of authority. Because sometimes the monsters wear hospital badges and speak with medical degrees. And sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to look away to bring them down. Thanks for watching till the end. Make sure to subscribe and like to not miss the next story.